Honestly, I thought I was in an episode of GTA. Honestly, that stuff just doesn't happen, you know? I haven't been in an accident for almost a decade, and all of a sudden this guy grabs the guitars and just dips out. I'm like, where's... like, it's unreal, honestly. It's unreal.
That was just the beginning of the chaos as police swarmed an Eagle Rock neighborhood on the hunt for the wanted driver. The situation taking a strange and violent turn when the wife of Weezer's bassist, Jillian Schreiner, was shot by the LAPD after she allegedly pointed a gun at officers and fired. The 51-year-old taken into custody and then taken to the hospital, now facing a charge of attempted murder. That wanted suspect spotted in his boxers trying to blend in by watering the lawn of a home. He too was taken into custody and cited and released for misdemeanor hit and run.
Can this story get any bizarre? Now we have the video of the crash coming on. It's absolutely stunning. This is one of the weirdest stories we've ever seen.
A crazy driver.
Oh, wow.
Whoa,
Okay, so he just hit a car.
hit.
Let's see if the driver tries to
Does he
bail
stop?
and run off.
Oh man, that car looks badly damaged in the front.
Let's
It's
hope
hard
that
to imagine.
person-
Let's hope that person's okay. It looks like it
Was it
wasn't
a
as much.
passenger or that the driver?
Was that the passenger?
Or
Yeah,
the
it's hard
driver
to
got
tell.
out on the passenger side?
These police chases never end very well. I don't know why these guys keep thinking they can get away with it, but we've had a swarm of these lately.
So really, when you think about it, as daring a heist as you'll ever see. Watch. That's all that's left behind after a daring jewelry heist, tunneling their way in like something out of The Great Escape. Only this is one of the greatest jewelry heists in LA history. That's the sound of jewelry thieves cutting through a 3-foot thick reinforced wall.
You see the blade cutting this? There's a blade. This is the marking of the blade.
Yeah.
This was a professional job.
I'd say upwards of 20 million.
20 million?
Yeah, about, maybe more or less. So it took over 20 years for my father to accumulate all that, and overnight, all taken.
Diamonds worth millions, all cleaned out. The target, Love Jewels, here on Broadway.
This is absolutely stunning. $20 million in jewels. They didn't have any insurance, which was going to cost them $1 million a year. Man, these guys are in bad shape. Sign of the times of what we are. Smash and grabs, jewelry thieves. It's getting ridiculous out here, especially in California.
Topic a bit, but I think appropriate in the moment. Have you ever been a fan of boxing?
Boxing?
Yes.
Sure.
You know, they have weight classes.
Right.
And it's seen negatively when you go down to a lighter weight just so you can win. It's called punching down.
You're going to want to stay tuned to the end of the show. Yes, that's Chuck Washington, Supervisor of Riverside County, saying, yeah, I'm going to punch down. It's an absolutely fantastic story about the arrogance, the total arrogance and the disrespect they have for you in the community. You're going to want to stay tuned for our segment on that.
Are you Alex Mena with the IRS? Are you Alex Mena with the IRS, sir? You're part of an undercover investigation. They're talking about you going after small people, destroying people's lives. You have no problem doing that. You're on hidden camera as part of a hidden camera investigation.
They don't have any empathy at all towards it.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
Sir? You're on camera, sir.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
Sir, we have a runner here. We have a runner. Sir, we have a runner. We have a runner at the IRS. We're going for a jog here in New York.
So the IRS man admits on camera and then tries to run away that they are doing nefarious activities on the citizens of the United States. This on tax day. Remember this clip.
You're seeing healthcare numbers go through the roof, candidly. in this state as it relates to the number of people that are applying for health care benefits.
Governor Gavin Newsom signed legislation to close a $2.8 billion gap in the state's budget for Medicaid services. The governor's move will ensure coverage through June for 15 million California residents who receive health care through the Medi-Cal program.
So you have to pay for benefits for people in this country unlawfully or illegally to the tune of almost $12 billion. The California legislature, Gavin Newsom, have guaranteed that while people of California, deserving residents, suffer.
Single week, we have a litigation working group where a large group of us, and I'm talking there's maybe 75 members of the House, sit down every single week with the AGs to talk about legal strategy. This is all going on every single week behind the scenes. It is nonstop talk, nonstop introduction of bills and legislation, nonstop being on social media as much as we can without being throttled and without the crazy analytics. And
there's Laura Friedman from California Democrat, how they're trying to stop Trump, working not only with California, but other like-minded states like New York to screw us over and fund anything from illegal health care to our absolutely stupid energy policies here, inflation, everything else that they have advocated, and they still, like the IRS, want to screw you, the taxpayer.
Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago, and they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over, and that's why nobody watches you anymore? You have no credibility. Please go ahead.
Donald J. Trump, the great El Presidente of the United States, shutting down that nasty woman, Caitlin Collins, who, again, look who's the ones who are always trying to demigrate the country, make us less safe, protect illegal foreign criminals over the safety of the United States. It's absolutely stunning, the stupidity that some people watch and listen to and follow.
Talk about this homelessness investigation. What have you found so far, and so what are you looking to do in the next few months and years?
Yeah, this is an issue that's been not only on my radar, but I think everyone's radar for the last few years. We've seen billions of dollars being invested into the homelessness crisis, and there's very little to show for it. When I was in Sacramento, we would ask for outcomes, and we got no answers. And
of course we get, because if they answered the questions of how tens of hundreds of billions of dollars just got wasted on unemployment fraud in California or the vagrant crisis, jail would be too good of a punishment for what us citizens have endured.
And bars after targeting the Altadena community. Take a look at these photos posted on social media by the LA County Sheriff's Altadena station. Deputies say on Sunday they arrested several copper thieves in the act. You can clearly see a trunk load of stolen copper wires along with several more in the back seat. While authorities say they will continue to conduct more operations, they urge community members to make a report if you see
copper thieves, schools, communities,
it was an
everything
exciting
else.
New romance.
Was she in love? Yes, she was.
It's absolutely stunning what we have to endure. There's that funky live guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5 or close to it. Evil Epi Network, Rumble, all that good stuff. X, YouTube even. See how long we survive on that. Man, what a day. Tax day. James O'Keefe getting the tax guy running down the street after he says, yeah, we screwed the people over. And then once we get them down and have them, we really pile on. Of course, today is the day you need to, or you're supposed to have your tax returns all filed. You can, my understanding, no accountant or professional, but you can ask for an extension, but you really need to pay a estimated amount or what you think by today to avoid the penalties and all that repercussions. Even if that, please file. That way you're not getting abused by the infernal revenue service. That NUDIE story, well, at least we got the dash cam footage of the actual crash that started. But again, how does the Weezer wife, how is she alive? If she pointed a gun and fired at police officers and then allegedly walked back in the house? Strange. That story gets more bizarre besides the dude standing out in his boxers, taking a swim or acting like he's cleaning the pool or something. The two guys, I don't know about the other two. We still haven't heard if they've apprehended the other two that were in the car in that bizarre police chase. But man, that story's just getting nuts. $20 million jewelry heist down in LA. The smash and grabs, the jewelry heist, everything else are coming to fruition. It seems, again, are resurfacing as we speak. It's getting crazy out here in California. Newsom signs the legislation trying to borrow almost $3 billion, let me get it correct, $3 billion of your money that you'll have to pay back with interest. So illegals have Medi-Cal. They're bankrupting an already bankrupt system. All y'all that love the Obamacare or is going to take care of everybody and a bunch of evil rich white boys are torturing everybody. They got all the health care and they make everybody, they don't care if you got a hangnail, you're going to die. Well, you've successfully fouled up the greatest healthcare system that the world has ever known in all of recorded history from the United States by taking it from a free market, employer-based benefit system to, oh, everybody's covered. Doesn't matter if you're coming from Guatemala, Ethiopia. Oh, we'll just bring them in. You don't care about people. You mean white, evil, straight white male. I don't know why we don't just line you all up and shoot y'all, because you are responsible for every evil that has ever been known, even eating the fruit in the Garden of Eden. It's beyond belief, some of the things we endure. Can't get it. You got to wait for the segment when we get to KMET. I'm going to do it there. On Chuck Washington, Supervisor, I believe showing the arrogance. If nobody thought, I don't care if you're supporter, Democrat, right, left, conservative, libertarian, the arrogance of 98.7% of these politicians is absolutely stunning. Now, you got to be a little tricky in how you bring it out. But if you approach it right, you can expose them for the evil, rotten individuals they are. Prove me wrong. I'll give anybody the opportunity to do that. Well, practically anybody. Stunning. Stunning what can be done if you put your mind to it. Like Laura Friedman, Democrat, how they're working overtime to defeat the absolute rational and sane policies of Donald J. Trump and support the insane, stupid, gonna bankrupt us all policies of Gavin Newsom, Yokel Hokel, Fat Boy Pritzker, and all the other yo-yos. Loved how Trump destroyed the nasty woman, Caitlin Collins, we had in the preview. And then Stephen Miller about this whole, they're trying to make hay of this, the El Salvador, and we're sending criminals back to where they came from. Stephen Miller absolutely destroyed them. The great Bill Asaley, our U.S. Attorney for Central and Southern California. On the vagrants, what we're doing with that now, and many other things, we'll get to that here in a sec. Copper thieves hit Altadena on that, but I want to deal with the Bill Asaley one. He was assemblyman, and the special election is on for his seat, Assembly District 63, August 26th. Natasha Johnson, Republican, councilwoman from Lake Elsinore, has announced, and Chris Stoltz, which ran on the Democratic Party in the last time and got cremated by Asaley, is also announced. We'll see who else jumps in that seat. Asaley was on with Alex Michelson and had a pretty good go-around of what he is doing as the new U.S. Attorney for Central and Southern California. Let's, as they say, roll tape.
U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley. We've had you on several times as Assembly member, Bill Asaley. New job. Congratulations on the new gig.
Thank you. Happy to be here and happy to be in this new role.
So let's talk about this homelessness investigation. What have you found so far, and so what are you looking to do in the next few months and years?
Yeah, this is an issue that's been not only on my radar, but I think everyone's radar. For the last few years, we've seen billions of dollars being invested into the homelessness crisis, and there's very little to show for it. When I was in Sacramento, we would ask for outcomes, and we got no answers. And then just this last month, as audit was conducted at the request of Judge Carter, and an accounting firm came in and looked at LASA and said there's $2 billion unaccounted for. Yeah. That doesn't happen. So we want to get to the bottom of where all the money went.
So Judge Carter is the judge that sort of oversees the area, and he's been pushing for a lot of this homelessness stuff. LASA is the housing authority that the county has been using. Mm-hmm. Now there's a big push the city has been using, I should say. There's a push to sort of maybe change LASA because of that. So where do we go from here?
Yeah. So we're not prejudging anything. We're conducting an investigation from the bottom up.
That whole LASA thing is very, very, very interesting. Besides the billions of that, the chick that was running it, or one of the muckety-mucks, allegedly sent $2 million to her husband's nonprofit. When that was discovered, a couple weeks ago, she resigns. She did nothing wrong. Why the hell did she resign? That's like pennies of probably what has went on with the total theft of your money on this whole vagrant con that we have been subjected to. This is going to be one of the biggest stories of the year along with that. And Asaley's on more stuff, but we got to get more back to, that was a real winner, back to more, showing the dyslexia, of what is in store finally, and this is, I believe, why Trump, through Rick Grinnell, put a Saley in. As bad as it hurt to have him out of the assembly, I think he's going to do greater things as U.S. Attorney for Central and Southern California.
We're going to get all the bank records, we're going to look at all the transactions, and we're going to account for every dollar that was spent. And we've got FBI, IRS, Office of Inspector General of Housing and Urban Development, and I have my best prosecutors in the office that will be working on this. And the public deserves to know where their money went.
And I know you walked Skid Row with Judge Carter.
I did.
What was that conversation like?
That was an eye-opening experience. I mean, the level of need there was shocking, and also the lack of government services. I mean, walking around there, the only people I saw providing any aid, medical or food, were private people with private donors. And the only government assistance I saw there was people handing out needles and drug kits so that people could safely use drugs.
That, and we ran the clip of that, or we had the report when he first made it last week. First, as we say, here you go. No, absolutely no. Zero. Government agencies, remember, they're supposed to be out on the street, offering services, trying to help. Oh, we don't need the cops busting them. We need these social workers out there. We're going to defund the police, add more social workers. It's all going to be Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland. As Saley said, there's absolutely zero government, nonprofit, or whatever these agencies, except handing out drug paraphernalia. Walking around doing that with Judge Carter. Again, this is absolute stunning stuff coming out from Saley on that here. Hopefully, we go. There it is.
It's shocking.
Well, speaking of that, the previous U.S. attorney put a lot of emphasis on fentanyl and dealing with that issue. Is that something that you see as a priority, and what are you going to do on that?
That is a priority to the administration. Obviously, a lot of the fentanyl is coming over the border, so that's part of our border policy, securing our border, going after China for sending the product to Mexico, and obviously the cartel for distributing it. But dealers in California should be on notice. If you deal fentanyl, we will prosecute you and charge you, and you'll go to federal prison, not state prison.
You'll go to federal prison, not state prison. But notice how he reiterated the Trump policy of, China, Mexico, he didn't mention that, Mexico, who are responsible for the most part for manufacturing and distributing this in the United States of America. Again, there's a lot of reasons probably why Saley was chosen for this, and he's getting to more outline the priorities now that he's had a couple weeks on the job. And I can say, for one, I'm totally thrilled that we're finally getting somebody in there that can do the job 100%, not just trying to bust them, the people here, but the Chinese and Mexican cartels.
What does this role mean to you, to have the confidence of President Trump to be doing this now?
Well, look, it's an incredible honor to be selected by the President and the Attorney General for this. This is the largest U.S. Attorney's office in the country. We have over 300 lawyers. It's a tremendous responsibility. But I think, with my background, having been a local and federal prosecutor and having been up in Sacramento, it's time to have that oversight, that level of check and balance on a state of California where, frankly, there hasn't been a lot of checks and balances in this state.
So back to that part of it. This is another reason. Saley's got lots of credentials for this job. Not only being an attorney, obviously, or should be, being a deputy DA prosecutor here in Riverside County, and a deputy DA in the same office he's running now in Central and Southern California. In fact, he was part of the team that prosecuted the San Bernardino mass killings there, 10 years ago, I think, in 15, over there at the hospital. This is a unique, we haven't had this in a long time. Somebody with this unique set of skills to bring to the table. Not only does he know the law, he knows the inner workings of how it works with the politics and what has been going on, the skullduggery that's been going on in that whole industry. On top of that, I wonder if the Democrats and stuff that were shutting him down in the legislature are thinking that was really a great idea. Time will tell. More from the
Yeah, speaking of, because you were just part of the super minority, right, in the assembly, where essentially Democrats could ignore you on everything. They didn't need your votes on anything.
They did.
Have a lot of those people now start to reach out to you because they need you? Have you gotten a different sort of response now that you have a lot more power?
I got a lot of congratulations, but as you can imagine, this new role, I've sort of had to detach myself from the political world. So. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of just congratulatory messages, but no, I probably won't engage in substantive conversations with them just to maintain my independence.
But speaking of that, though, I mean, you were, a real critic of Governor Newsom. Obviously, you're in a different sort of role now, but how do you...
Bill O'Saley being very diplomatic, well, they were they were absolutely screwing guys like Bill O'Saley, Carl DeMaio, Kate Sanchez, Leticia Castillo, Greg Wallace, James Gallagher, Josh Hoover, and whatever other couple Republicans are in the assembly of that. Even Gavin Newsom, I bet you, is probably thinking, I wonder what O'Saley's going to be working on in Trump. Now that I've got my hat in my hand, trying to ask for bailouts and everything else. More from the O'Saley interview with Alex Michelson on Fox 11
Do you see
NUDIE.
this job potentially as a way to keep him in check?
Look, my job is not to keep the governor himself in check. My job is to follow the evidence where it goes. So we're going to look at state spending, like this homelessness, $24 billion spent over the last 5 years. We're just going to look at the accounts and see where the money goes. Public corruption will be a key issue. I know there's going to be another.
Let's stop there. The homeless, the 24. It's a lot more than that, I believe, but we're not going to. What's a few billion among friends? The public corruption, again, that's where O'Saley has a much deeper understanding because he has seen it firsthand. He's been on the inside as our assembly member out here in the Inland Empire for a little over 2 years. Again, I wonder if Newsom and Rivas and Eloise Reyes, Isaac Bryan, and the crew, Corey Jackson, are real happy Bill O'Saley is the U.S. attorney.
Investigation into the high-speed rail. So it's not the governor per se, but it is a lot of the issues that he champions.
Biggest change for the
high-speed rail. What are we into that? 20, 30 billion dollars. They got a third of a mile of track laid. Then they're asking the federal government for $7 billion. Trump saying, Trump hasn't stopped laughing yet. Again, they don't know what to do. Hey, they were Essen and Tall Cotton when the Harris-Biden regime was in. They ain't looking so cool now.
office now with you in charge?
Biggest change in the office is that law and order is back. We're going to be filing cases. We will be aggressive but fair. And I think the biggest thing you'll see is a crackdown on immigration cases. Those are illegal aliens who've re-entered, committed crimes. We'll be very aggressive with them. There were no filings in the last few years under the prior administration. Zero of 1326 cases. As of last week, we've had over 200 filings in my office. So that would probably be the biggest change, and more to come. We want to neutralize these sanctuary state policies, and I think we have some plans to do that.
Well,
prosecuting people in this country illegally and unlawfully is going to be a priority. Crimes against the public by our public officials are going to be investigated and maybe tried fairly but judiciously. I want to run that clip again.
Under the prior administration,
Zero
of 1326 cases. As of last week, we've had over 200 filings in my office. So that would probably be the biggest change, and more to come. We want to neutralize these sanctuary state policies, and I think we have some plans to do that.
Well, you've always been great.
Neutralize these sanctuary state and city policies. Maybe we got a chance, and Trump knows this, something we've said a long time on this show. California is the engine not only that makes the United States run, but even a lot of the world. You destroy California, you're killing the goose that laid the golden egg. So if Assaley and Trump, through our legislatures and stuff and through Congress, can help straighten out California, it's going to bode well for the other 57 states, as Obama has said. We shall see what transpires, but things are looking brighter. It's more of the local news, as they say. Police officers and deputy sheriffs all across the board looking into the retail theft from your Marietta Police Department. Some of the stuff they've got. Yes, they're busting these clowns that have been torturing us. Ultimately, that's going to save us some money across the board on that. You copper thieves, whether they're stealing the equipment or the copper out of the stores, it's absolutely ridiculous of what we endure on this stuff. Of course, the $2.8 billion Newsom approved again. I can't get over this story. We're funding $2.8 billion, probably another $3 billion, for a total of $6 billion. We're going to borrow money to finance health care for illegal aliens, on top of wrecking the whole healthcare system in California. Remember Obamacare and all this, and Medi-Cal and Medicaid, and we're going to cover everybody, and it's going to get cheaper, and it's all going to be Wizard of Oz. They were selling you a load of S. And the sad thing is, you get to pay for it. U.S. Attorney's Office found and convicted Jonathan Barajas Nava, 37, of Albuquerque, New Mexico, who was sentenced in Los Angeles today to 51 months in federal prison for setting a San Bernardino County church and preschool on fire last year while children and school employees were inside. Absolutely stunning story. As you see, there's the church on fire, the school on fire. he could 51 months, way too less of a sentence. That in itself should trigger life without the possibility of parole as a minimum. In Roy's world, that would probably even get the death penalty. But some people say I'm too harsh. Who knows? That's a brief vignette in our local news in the IE. So we're back on the channel. Oh, I wanted to get to this. See if we can get her. Yes. See if I can get me up there. Again, just a reminder, special District 63 election set for August 26th to replace Bill O'Saley. That includes Canyon Lake, Corona, Eastville, Lake Elsinore, Menifee, Norco, Riverside, Temescal Valley, and Woodcrest, or parts or some or all of those. Again, Natasha Johnson, Republican, running or announced already for the seat, along with Chris Schultz of Democrat running, and he's an educator, lost big time to O'Saley. Republicans don't screw up this time. You know, these special elections can be tricky. If you got 37,000 candidates running, you can elect a Democrat to a plus Republican seat. Don't be stupid. Sometimes, especially Republicans or conservatives or center-right, are some of their own worst enemies when it comes to dealing with some of this stuff. I want to get to that. Here's first. Get to some Donald J. news. First off is this whole El Salvador thing. Oh, the caterwauling about the MS-13 gang member that got shipped to El Salvador prison and all that. Here's Trump meeting with the El Salvadorian Presidente, who heaps praises on Donald J. Trump. But here's the nasty woman at the White House asking a question and Trump shutting her down.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago, and they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore. You know, you have no credibility. Please go ahead.
You have no credibility. Just like when Trump called her the nasty woman up there when they were having that town hall, and Trump going on CNN when he was running as a candidate in 2024. How many times did Biden go into enemy territory or any territory and plead his case, or Comrade Kamala when they dumped Slow Joe? This is the brilliance of Trump and the new team, along with Bill O'Saley. Trump 1.0, you wouldn't have got Bill O'Saley as a U.S. attorney out here in Central and Southern California. In fact, you didn't. Or somebody of his like. Now you do. Now Stephen Miller is the deputy chief of staff in charge of policy. He's basically running the political Congress operation. Susie Wiles, chief of staff, is running the day-to-day, making sure everything works as smoothly as possible. Here's Stephen Miller destroying the inane question of the nasty woman. Here
Question
we
also,
go.
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So we had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask
Supreme
for
Court is
getting
asking
back?
to. And
Is that-
what was the
is
ruling
that your
in the
position?
Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
in our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual, at El Salvador's sole discretion, was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time. No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here, because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it for the court can only be directed to him.
I asked
¿Usted lo liberaría, presidente?
Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to not suggesting that I'll smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
It's always
how can I
CNN.
smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it.
Would you?
Of course he's not. The El Salvadorian president is actually, seems like, at least in this case, a very honest guy. I'm not going to smuggle criminals back into the United States. Trump will be coming after me. Again, Trump 1.0, we wouldn't have guys like Stephen Miller as deputy chief of staff running the policy, and a guy that actually knows what the hell he's doing. That's the primer of what we have going on today in our country. And I could be, for one, not much happier that we got guys like Stephen Miller and Bill Asaley backing up Pam Bondi, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, and the list goes on. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Linda McMahon, Jay Bhattacharya. All these cats. Boy, if we'd have had them in Trump 1.0, the United States would be on such a mission right now, such prosperity, such opportunity. You couldn't handle it all. No possible way. There would be too much joy going on in your life. Thoroughly fascinating of what's going on. This is another one. And this kind of got to something that's been going on at Riverside County and across the country. Greg Langworthy and his crew, the Public Election Integrity Unit, as they call themselves, been tracking this stuff for many years. And that'll come up when we get to the Chuck Washington Supervisor punching down segment when we join KMAT 1490. But this stuff has been absolutely incredible. Rasmussen has put it out, the 60 Minutes deal, where Chris Krebs saying the 2020 election was totally secure. Remember back in 16 when Hillary lost? It was the most corrupt, this and that. You had Mad Maxine Waters suing, or Barbara Boxer, one of them, doing the same thing we did in 2020 with the J6 deal, raising the same concerns. Didn't seem to be much of a problem then. Oh, the election was corrupt as hell in 16. Totally secure when Comrade Kamala and Slow Joe won. Now it's corrupt as hell again because how did Trump win not only the Electoral College, but the popular vote? Explain how that happened. This is the arrogance of these individuals. Each and every day we have to deal with this insane nonsense. Azalea didn't mention this one, but I'm sure it's on the Trump radar screen to the max. This was in the LA Times, as they say. California defies Trump order to certify that all school districts have eliminated diversity, equity, and inclusion. That whole farce we have been subjected to, endangering our kids, threatening, from State Superintendent Tony Thurmond in California to the Harris Biden deal when they were in, threatening ones like the great Sonia Shaw, president of the Chino Valley Unified School District, for actually wanting to inform parents of what was going on with their kids in all respects, and actually sanctioning hiding or having kids have medical treatment, whether it be abortions, transitioning, hormone blockers. California on Fridays, the LA Times wrote, defied a Trump administration order to certify that the state's 1,000 school districts have ended all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, despite federal threats to cut billions of dollars in education if the state does not comply. So Riverside, the Moreno Valley Crime Syndicate, Chino Valley, Murrieta, San Bernardino, the list goes on. Coachella, Desert Sands, what a dumpster fire that is. Valverde. All you school districts have defied the order, which you might be able to get away with. But what about the 12% of the budget that comes from the federal government going to the schools in the state of California? You seem to be putting that in maximum peril. Now, there's still about a week or so to get it done, but California's schools have been basically telling Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, Trump administration, and the federales, screw yourself. So, if that's going to be their take, on top of California schools being practically every school district being on the verge of bankruptcy because the total fiscal mismanagement, I hope Asaley starts looking at the school districts. Holy cow. California Department of Education also sent a letter to the U.S. Department of Education about the decision not to comply, said the federal request was vague. Oh, that's just a gnarly excuse. Oh, well, we don't know what you're talking about. Oh, yes, you do. 13 billion or 16 billion across the state of California for education comes from our federal tax dollars. The absolute disaster in Caravello and crew of the Los Angeles Unified School District, over $1 billion just in that school district. Around 10% of its budget. That's what you got to look forward to. This is how, then they're going to scream, we don't have enough money. This is a totally disturbing story. This is by Cal Matters. Robert Lewis, License to Kill. California DMV routinely allows dangerous drivers with horrifying histories to continue to operate on our roadways. Too often, they go on to kill. Many keep driving even after they kill. Some go on to kill again. Now, you think all of us in the media are up to hyperbole and stuff? Or we don't know what we're talking about, or we don't have any evidence, or the politicos are too high up? Oh, we don't want to punch down because we are above you. Writes in Cal Matters, Ivan Dimov was convicted of reckless driving in 2013 after fleeing from police in Washington state while his passenger allegedly dumped heroin out the window. Before that, he got 6 DUIs in California over a 6-year period. None of that would keep him off the road. California Department of Motor Vehicles reissued him a driver's license in 2017. The next year, on Christmas Eve, he drove drunk again, running a stop sign and a traffic light in Midtown Sacramento, going more than 80 mile an hour, court records show. He T-boned another car, killing a 28-year-old man who was going home to feed the cat before heading to his mom's for the holiday. This another guy with 17 tickets. Killing a toddler, still got his driver's license. Irvin Wyatt's history. Spreads across 2 pages of court filings. Running from the cops, running red light, causing traffic collisions, driving without a license. More than a dozen speeding tickets. 2023, he lost control, crashed into oncoming traffic, killing 3 women. Now he's facing murder charges. Those 3 women can't get their lives back. They're gone forever. Again, the list goes on and on and on. This is the stuff we have to endure. Every day. No wonder California residents are getting weary. Or in order to survive, just have to turn their heads. Or pretend it's not really happening until it happens to you. That's the sad part of what's happening today. The good news is we got Trump in the White House, appointed Bill O'Reilly, so our U.S. attorney, start looking into these things, going to reform. Hopefully by the 26 elections, we will have a wholesale change in the California government. We desperately need that. Desperately. Because if we don't fix this stuff, even as hard as they may be peddling in the Trump administration cleaning this stuff up, we don't clean up California, it has the potential to keep dragging the rest of the United States and the world down the crapper. We're going to be joining the Mighty Met KMET here in a few seconds. We'll get into the Chuck Washington, Supervisor of Riverside County, and his punching down comment at the supervisors meeting today, and the total arrogance, and what your public officials really think of you. Man, if you don't kiss their rear end, you're out. And they will make sure that you're out.
All right, Roy, 30 seconds.
As Sean said, we'll be joining the Mighty Met KMET, getting down to that punching down comment and other things.
Yeah, I just had Windows 11 totally cut out my audio input for my hour show at 4 p.m. So I had dead air. I had no recording for my person at 4 p.m. show. So I'm not in a very good mood right now.
Well, at least you got it back for me.
Here we go. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Impressed are those of the program producer. They're not endorsed. Impressed are not necessarily those
Funky slide guitar music comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met KMET 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the AM band, showing your vast video audience on the Evil FB network, Rumble, X, even YouTube. On that, check us out. Sean had to work hard for an hour from 4 to 5 just to make sure we were on today, so we want to thank Sean for persevering and getting the radio station back up on the air so you could hear our fabulous program. Today, we've had the taxman running, showing the arrogance of the federal government or the IRS of how they're screwing you over, especially today on text day. That NUDIE chase, pursuit. It had the Weezer wife shooting at the cops and walking back in the house. We had the footage of actually what was going on out there in the chase got released on ABC7. Bizarre story. Bill O'Saley, our U.S. attorney, was interviewed by Alex Michelson on 11. Getting rid of the vagrants. Going to look into this political corruption. Big priority getting the fentanyl and the cartels and the China situation, and especially illegal immigrants, dealt with. Brighter future is looking ahead. And the special election was announced on August 26 to replace Bill O'Saley, who had to resign from his assembly seat here in the Inland Empire. Natasha Johnson, Lake Elsinore councilwoman, has announced. Also Chris Schultz, who ran as a Democrat and got slaughtered by O'Saley in that, has announced he's an educator and Democrat. Just Republicans, just remember these special elections can be tricky, so let's not shoot ourselves in the foot. Take out another secure center-right seat. Be smart, because if nobody gets 50% plus one, which is guaranteed now because there's only 2 candidates running, then it'll go to a special election. Hopefully we'll get Natasha Johnson back on. She was on when she was curried favor on the sanctuary cities on the show in 2018. So we'll see if she'll come back in. Got a chance to reacquaint with her down at the RRA meeting last night. We'll see how that goes. So as we had on the Open 2 and we've been previewing, Riverside County Board of Supervisors, Chuck Washington, Manny Perez, Extian Gutierrez, Jose Medina, and Karen Spiegel. Chuck Washington with his famous today, "Oh, we don't punch down" comment. I'm going to submit to you what you're going to hear today is going to reaffirm, stamp the arrogance of 98.7% of all elected public officials. Of course, we had last week when Victor Manuel Perez, chair, called me out saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. I just come up there and complain. No facts, no evidence, yada, yada, yada. Of course, he doesn't take the opportunity to sit in the seat over here and back up his claims. So here's the first clip going in. They're all giving awards to their Citizen of the Year or whatever. Glad handing crap they're doing. Victor decides to give the newsman who comes and I guess MCs his political events for nothing his award for District 4. Let's start out with that. Here, hopefully, we go.
Different events, no matter where they are in the Coachella Valley, guess who's there? Patrick Evans. And he does it in his own way. He volunteers by emceeing events. He volunteers by judging. He volunteers by showing up on an ongoing basis. And he's done that throughout the valley. More so than anyone else that I know that works for any other news station back home.
For any other news station back home, as he has said. Well, his home for a while, too, was UCR, just a few short miles down from where we're at. Yours truly happens to be a newsman also amongst the other things I do. And we've had quite a history with old Victor. And the crew and the Board of Supervisors, and of course the accusations he made last week. of how you don't know what you're talking about. I have no evidence. But if you kowtow to the elites, you get curried favor and put out front and center. Here's Jim Niederrecker, part of the Public Election Integrity Unit, as they call themselves, talking about the vote and some of the problems. This is under the direct responsibility of the Riverside County Board of Supervisors. Here we go.
However, the Help America Vote Act, as Greg alluded to, sets an accuracy standard, and I quote, sufficiently stringent such that the likelihood of voting system errors affecting the outcome of an election is exceptionally remote, even in the closest of elections. The 2015 voting system accuracy standard, like Greg mentioned, is 0.0008%. It's not 1%, it's not 2%. So there's an action item to follow up with the state on why they're not following federal law. We've had multiple races decided by 100 votes, 200 votes, but yet the county was at 9,286. Our audit indicated 33,888 more ballots counted than cast, and the ROV has not provided any evidence to the contrary, and so we fail to see the legitimacy of that election certification. Additionally, under California law,
no legitimacy, no disputing. They admit to almost 10,000 over-counted votes. The Temecula crew has got 30,000, which they have not denied. We had the guy, first gentleman in public comments about the illegal dumping. We had Jim's deal of that. We had Mr. Wayne, who's had a horrific situation, coming up there with mounds of evidence. Like Greg Langworthy, Jim Niederrecker, Mrs. Langworthy, and I forget the other ladies that usually shows up there. The veteran who's having his trash jacked up, can't get to it, which we're all feeling. The lady that's saying, hey, you know, I understand a little bit of how you're not into the school districts or it's not your responsibility, but you play a role in this. And she's concerned about her kids' education. This is absolutely 1,000% what we've been talking about. And so, as I usually do on a Tuesday, we roll down when they have a meeting, usually most Tuesday mornings. We roll down to the County Board of Supervisors and roll into public comment. So we're addressing some of the issues of the day when it comes down there. So I'm walking up to the microphone for my very interesting, usually 3 minutes. Just in the public comments today, we heard about dumping. Still just talk, no solutions, about some very serious accusations, evidence in our elections. Mr. Wayne's plight, and you see guys come up here with documents and evidence up the wazoo. Does it really matter? I'll take you back to the last meeting. The chair made an accusation that I come up here and just make complaints with no evidence. I would suggest you get a hold of JVW, Mr. Tran and their crew, and do a CPRA, if it takes that, to find all the emails I put in with the documentary evidence, plus 5 days a week on the radio with experts and everybody else putting this stuff out on websites and everything else. Does it make any difference? Of course not. Not to the county board of supervisors if you're not kissing their rear end. Oh, but if you kiss their rear end, oh, you get awards and praise. As we seen earlier with Victor, the next shot coming up, here we go. First rule of dictators and tyrants is to destroy your enemies. I found it curious that the chair put up for his award somebody and praised the media member who come and did volunteer to do MCs and this and at our public events. What happens when you have dissenting opinions? Still, each one of you in this invitation still stands. It will give you every opportunity to come in. We only solve all these problems that you've heard today, from the conflicts between people from various things, if we sit down and we leave all these predispositions behind and sit down at the table and discuss them. When that doesn't happen, I believe the evidence can show you where the real problems lie. So again, I give you the opportunity, in my case, to back up what you're saying. That's all we can do. I can open the door. They got to have guts enough. The big heavyweights, and we're going to get to that in a second. The heavyweights, the board of supervisors are. On the ivory tower, you've got to bow down and kiss her in. They make claims that I know personally are incorrect, if not outright lying, which I think the evidence will show. But they have this whole mentality that we are the kings and you are the serfs and you will obey or you will be crushed by us, the heavyweights, the oligarchs, the tyrants that they are. And bring the evidence to back up the claims you made. Because when I see what I have seen personally, what do you think that means? What I think when I see others bring up the same claims and others do the same. It's in an effort to make sure or help prevent a lot of the things you see here and make this county, as one person said, work for everyone. That should be your goal.
Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Tanya Gonzalez, followed by Cole Craw.
Supervisor Washington.
So this is where it gets interesting. After Victor last week initiated a discussion with me, and I said the same thing. He challenged, oh, you don't bring anything out, you just complain, you have no backup for this, yada, yada. I said, hey, come on in and defend your statement. We can do it there, which we tried to do, and then you shut me off. I'd stand there. How many hours you want to go at the Board of Supervisors? We'll do it at the Board of Supervisors. Do it here, where? You name the spot, Victor or Chuck. So this comes right after you heard Victor say, oh, Chuck Washington, Victor was calling next speaker, Supervisor, Temecula Valley, Chuck Washington wanted to chime in. And if it wasn't a politician or an arrogant POS, as I believe they are, and then you got every right, Chuck or Victor or any of you, to come in here and prove me wrong or make your case. But if this is the way you treat people, for any reason, or this is a comment you make, of course, he didn't have guts enough to address me by name, which I have said. Please, if you're mentioning me, mention me by name. Get after it. Don't be hiding behind or this. This is what Chuck Washington said right after my comments.
Yes, just a moment. Mr. Chair, off topic a bit, but I think appropriate in the moment. Have you ever been a fan of boxing?
Boxing?
Yes.
Sure.
You know, they have weight classes.
Right.
And it's seen negatively when you go down to a lighter weight just so you can win. It's called punching down.
Believe it or not, that's Chuck. First for the DEI thing. Yeah, boys and girls sports, which I've invited them to come out and speak at the school districts of that. That's the same thing. That's real punching down, Chuck. Where have you stood up? Where's Victor Manuel Perez or Extian Gutierrez, Karen Spiegel, Jose Medina, or any of you stood up for boys, men, not punching down on women and girls in their sports, because that's exactly what it's about. But then he's implying, I believe, and let him deny it. Or what's he referring to? I want some more clarification on this, Chuck, because you were going after me, I believe, and I believe the evidence showing it. Here's more from Chucky Washington. Here we go.
Have you heard that term?
Yeah.
It can apply to politics. We occupy a very lofty position here as county supervisors with lots of responsibility.
We occupy a lofty position as county board of supervisors. That's why they refer to them as the 5 kings of Riverside County. Because they are in a lofty position. You have to bow down to them as they walk in the room. You can only tell them that they are absolutely great, do exactly what they say, or you're going to be crucified, ostracized, demeaned, and everything else. More from Chuck E. Cheese as we go. Here we go.
For 2.5 million residents.
Sure. I
And
concur 100%.
And I don't see any reason to engage in punching down.
That's why we're moving on to the next speaker.
There we go.
There we go. Notice Victor Manuel Perez, chair of the board, said he concurred with the statement of Chuck Washington. Why don't you both come in? We'll do it at the County Board of Supervisors. We'll do it in here in studio. We'll take as much time as you guys want. But the absolute, if you're going to roll a guy like me, if you're going to treat me and others like us, who actually have some tools to roll back at you guys, what is the regular general public guy or the veteran who can't pay the tax increase mandated for his trash, or the illegal dumping? Or why in the hell do our elections look like they're a total disaster, cheating, whatever, pile of S. Why can't you help educate or hit kids? Why can't you not advocate for not punching down Chuck Washington, Victor, which you concurred with it, what he said? Tell me how boys and men in girls' sports is not punching down. Yet, you guys sound silence as far as I know. Show me the backup where you came out and defended your wives, daughters, grandmothers, mothers. Show me. I want to see it. I believe most people want to see it. Just back up your claims if you're going to make a claim. Chuck E. Cheese, Victor, Manuel. Then have guts enough to back it up. Have guts enough to defend it. No, you want to show how, boy, if you don't kiss our ring, we're going to destroy you. We're going to mock you. This is what they think of you. Now we have evidence. Not once, but twice, but 3, 10, 20 million times. They didn't really, you got to work the technique. And you got to know how to do it. You got to kind of, it's a skill set. But you can bring out the truth. Some of us are not afraid, although sometimes it feels like a lonely highway. Sometimes to say the emperor has no clothes. And we will continue to do that. As long as we're on the top side of the grass. I guess you could say, in some respects, it's been a family tradition. As you know, I've been talking about standing up for our country, doing something. These big box stores stayed open while the little guys closed. Will our voices be heard? Does voting with our dollars work? PatriotSwitch.com gives patriots the power to walk away from the big box stores forever. Stop supporting the enemies of freedom now. That's why PatriotSwitch.com was created, for those who support America. PatriotSwitch.com. Is your car doing the hucklebuck and afraid you will be stuck? Well, head on down to Toyota of San Bernardino, Nissan of San Bernardino, Subaru of San Bernardino, in the San Bernardino Auto Mall, and catch a Camry, look ravishing in a Rogue, or be styling in a Subaru. Don't forget I-10 Toyota in Indio for those of you in the lower desert. You deserve to be the happiest human on the planet. So head on down to one of these 4 great dealerships for the car of your dreams. Spread the word. IE Newswire is now on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 p.m. on Rumble and KMET 1490 AM, 5:30 to 6 p.m. Join all the cool kids who want an eclectic look at the news without all the filters of the evil scoundrels of social media and the despicable dorks of the dominant press. Don't bumble and stumble. Subscribe to IE Newswire on Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around. That's it. If you want to buy American, go to PatriotSwitch.com. Need a news Toyota or Subaru? Going to one of Cliff Cummings' great dealerships at San Bernardino Auto Mall. As we usually say at the 10 and 2, 15 freeways. Don't forget I-10 Toyota down in the lower desert. Man, what a day. Got to go to the Moreno Valley City Council meeting and deal with more of our tyrant, arrogant politicians. IRS creeps who run and hide after they say, well, yeah, we're screwing the people over, but we're doing it because we can. very interesting ride of what we're doing today. But the results are paying off. Trump calling the nasty woman out, Stephen Miller saying, you guys are full of ass. Bill O'Saley saying, now we're actually going to look and try and get rid of some of this corruption and malfeasance. And $30 billion of your money being flushed away there. And politicians screwing you over there. We actually may have a shot at turning this ship around. And that could come none too quickly. But I think we've got the best chance of doing it. That'll do it for today. We usually say this time. And it's back here 23 hours wide. You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
The proceeding was a...
Oh, fuck. Excuse my language, but fuck.
Well, I'm glad you got it on for me.
Yeah, well,
appreciate it.
I lost a half an hour of a fucking paid show, so,
Yeah. Well, hey, it
I never fucking had Windows 10 do that at all to me. But ever since Windows 11 has been here, it's fucking happened twice now. And it's a Windows 11. That's how they fucking bring audio into the goddamn fucking computer now. My buddy who's a computer tech at County of Riverside is so fed up with Windows 11 because he said it happens to him almost every day on Windows 11. So I'm just fucking pissed off at myself for not fucking noticing that shit, before, God damn.
Hey, well, hopefully tomorrow will be a better day.
Yeah, well.
Well, you won't be here to deal with it. So
Yeah.
you won't have to worry about it till Friday. That's your reprieve of it.
Yeah, well, the thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting a piece of paper right up on the side of this computer. Check audio input to this son of a bitch. That's what I'm fucking writing. I'm going to print it out right now and fucking post it up.